Housing and asks, does he agree with Housing New Zealand that the Enterprise Transformation Program to replace existing IT systems is expected to result in savings of $70 million per year? If so, how is this figure calculated?
Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr. Speaker, while this is an operational matter, I have been advised by the Chief Executive that the draft business case on the Enterprise Transformation Program that has yet to be approved by the board has outlined up to $70 million per annum of expected efficiencies. And with regards to the second part of the question, I can advise the member that this figure was calculated very carefully.
Moana Mackey.
To the Minister. Given that Housing New Zealand last week were forced to admit that the cost of scoping the business case had almost doubled to $10 million, can he guarantee the House that costs will not blow out even further, given claims from insiders that the costs to date are actually in excess of $20 million?
The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr. Speaker, I really don't quite understand where the member is coming from. This is a project that was initiated by Housing Corporation when her government was in power. The key partners, Deloitte, were chosen by Housing Corp to be the key partners when her party was in power.
Order. I apologise to the Minister for interrupting him, but I think the question that Moana Mackey asked was a reasonable question about whether or not there are risks about the cost of the project escalating, and I think the answer should focus somewhat on that. The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Speaker, I'm very happy to come to that as the last part of my answer. So therefore, so much of what was happening now was put in train before this party came into government. But, sir, we've put all sorts of extra monitoring in place. This program is being looked at by both Treasury and the State Services Commissioner to check on it. And, sir, yes, we will make sure best practice is followed, even though, in the end, all the decisions taken are a fully operational matter to be taken by the Housing Corporation themselves.
Question of Moana Mackey.
To the Minister. How does he reconcile claims by Housing New Zealand that its systems are so outdated that it's becoming difficult to conduct its business, with a report commissioned by Housing New Zealand from ResultX which says that existing IT systems are reliable and, quote, there was not a single issue raised that related to the reliability of the underlying infrastructure. This is so unusual as to merit specific mention, close quote.
The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that a number of the information technology systems that Housing Corporation are currently using, such as Rentel, were developed in 1993. Mr. Speaker, that by my calculation is 17 years ago, and I want to tell that member that any information technology system that is that old is not valid for modern day requirements, and the specifics that this government has put on Housing Corporation for delivery of service requires modern day information systems for them to do their job.
Moana Mackey.
To the Minister. Is he even aware that Housing New Zealand commissioned a report from consultancy firm ResultX, which independently reviewed their systems and concluded that existing systems are very reliable, suffered remarkably little downtime, and which conclusively rejected claims that existing systems are no longer fit for purpose?
The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr. Speaker, myself and the Minister of Finance's shareholding ministers are doing what we should be doing as ministers. That is, keeping a watching brief, asking the corporation to keep us well informed of progress, using state agencies like the Treasury and the State Services Commission to do the detailed monitoring. But in the end, finally, Mr. Speaker, this decision, after the business case is finalised, will be taken by the corporation, and the chairman of the corporation has offered that member to come and discuss it with him, and she hasn't taken him up on that offer yet.
Question number 10. Oh,
don't know where you got that from.
Is this a supplementary question?
Supplementary.
Order. I asked members to be a little more reasonable. I couldn't hear Moana Mackey.
Supplementary
Supplementary question, Moana Mackey.
To the Minister, given how at pains he was at yesterday's Māori Housing Conference to stress that there's not a single extra cent left in the coffers to fund housing projects, does he think it is good value for taxpayer money for his department to spend $10 million preparing a business case for the replacement of an IT system which Housing New Zealand's own reports say does not need to be replaced?
The Honourable Maurice.
Mr. Speaker, when you're developing information technology projects, best practice determines that you do a very detailed business case before you make final decision to spend. To develop such a detailed business case requires the expenditure of money, and to date, sir, I am convinced that the Housing Corporation's spending on the development of that business case has been within what the government considers value for money.
Question number 10, Melissa Lee.